episode of the IDS podcast, and we are here in the stunning Phillip Jeffries showroom in the middle of Midtown Manhattan. And although I know this is IDS Long Island, I did want to make a trip out here because the showroom is fantastic. It's beautiful, and I am talking to is it Long Island only?
I am the Long Island
sales rep for Phillip Jeffries, as well as the new president of IDS as of this past year. It's calendar year, right?
Yes.
Calendar year.
Just started in January.
Okay, so congratulations on your new role. It's exciting.
Thank you.
And I'm not going to, like I said to you before, I don't want to get deep into the inner workings of IDS and everything it offers, because we did have an episode last year with Dean, the former president, about that. But if you want to quickly do two things. Number one, just give a quick 30-second elevator pitch about yourself.
Okay.
And then on top of that, just let's talk for a minute about just some of the IDS offerings, and then we'll get into all things wallpaper.
Okay, that sounds great, Brian. Thank you. So my name is Melissa Pollack, and I went to school for interior design. I worked as an interior designer pretty much my whole life, or until 5 years ago, I decided to make a change. It was a really good change for me. I had heard that Phillip Jeffries was hiring a Long Island sales rep, and the timing was just perfect. And I decided to give it a go, and then COVID hit, and it was actually a really great thing.
Okay.
It really was.
One of the few that say that.
Yeah, I know. So it was great for me. It was great for the industry.
Yeah.
Kind of took off. And here I am. So I love Phillip Jeffries. I love them as a brand. I loved them before. So when I had heard they were hiring, I said, that's it. I cannot mess up this opportunity. They're really owned by two great guys, where they run the business. It's owned by their parents. So Eric and Susan Bershad, and then Phillip and Jeffrey, they are real guys. Okay. And they run the company, and they've been doing so for over 20 years now. Doing a good job. The company actually started, a lot of people don't know this, in 1976 with just 10 grass cloths.
Oh, wow.
So they've really come a long way since then.
And it's, you know what, I'm shooting for designers all the time, and I'm just seeing more and more and more. And the coolest part is when I can walk into a house and I don't know anything about design, and I can tell that it's a Phillip Jeffries wallpaper.
Wow.
So we're getting to that point now.
That's funny.
Like I said, I showed you before, that baby nursery. I walked in, I said to the designer, that's a Phillip Jeffries, and she said yes.
Yes.
And then walked from there. So, and I think it's because of the whole murals and everything else that you guys are doing too, so it's pretty cool.
Yes, the murals are really big.
But we'll get into that. So let's briefly just talk about IDS for people that might have not have tuned in last year and are interested in finding out a little bit more about what IDS offers. And we don't have to talk about each specific event that you guys run, but just overall.
Yep. So IDS is comprised of interior designers and interior design related vendors like myself. So our chapter has a pretty good split of designers and vendors, and it's just a really great design community, a great way to meet other vendors that maybe you don't know about as a designer, and then also as a designer, meet other designers that you can feed information off of. And not sometimes designers work alone a lot, and so sometimes they feel alone, and it's really nice to have a design community where you can bounce things off of. So that's been a wonderful thing. And then there's a great social aspect of it.
Well, like you said, that's the most important thing, I think, because like you said, you work alone. Like with photographers, it's the same thing. I'm alone all day. Sometimes I have an assistant, but you're primarily alone. So just that social aspect and networking and all that stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And then it's also just kind of rewarding, because we do a paid forward every year, one or two. And so it's nice to be part of something like that, like a nice give back. You might not have the opportunity to do that on your own, so working with a group makes it, a lot more feasible and kind of feels good.
Yeah, and it's fun. You have monthly meetings.
Yes.
We have at different showrooms throughout Long Island.
That's
we have
right.
one coming up this week.
Yes, we do at Elements.
Yes. By the time this airs, that'll be long past.
You're right.
Though we have cool events throughout the year. I know in the summer you have some pizza tours and just really cool stuff throughout the year. We have an end of the year holiday party, so it's just fun throughout, and just socializing with other peers and other colleagues, and know that you're not alone, and know that even though a lot of the designers, you can look at them as competition, maybe they're not competition. They're more colleagues.
Definitely, and you learn a lot from the vendors in the chapter, both vendors that are showcasing their showroom at a chapter meeting, and just meeting vendors. I know for any projects that I'm doing, I like to use somebody that I've met through IDS. I did my kitchen with Ellen Lopez,
Yeah.
and, so I like to use people for things that I've connected with through IDS, make it really personal that way.
Awesome. All right, so let's kind of segue back into Wallpaper and Phillip Jeffries. And you started talking about how in the 70s they started with just 10 products. So let's talk a little bit about the evolution and how that process evolved to where you guys are today. Because, I mean, behind us, there's 40, 50 things right here. And this is a whole showroom, which is probably, 1,500 square feet here. So let's talk about the evolution of Phillip Jeffries.
Yeah, so like I had mentioned, they started with some grass cloth. There was a whole process of some other things that they were selling besides wall covering. At a certain point, they decided that they wanted to focus on wall covering, do what they do best, be the best wall covering company in the business. And we had, branched out from grass cloth to other materials. Also, we have textile wall covering and wood veneer wall covering.
Nice.
Lately, the trend is leaning much more towards printed wall covering. So we have prints, and then we have the murals, handcrafted, like acrylic, almost like you've painted it onto the wall covering.
Okay.
So a lot of those really textural, and it has, just evolved from there.
Yeah, I sort of feel, and maybe because of my lack of knowledge of the design community, but I feel like there was some point, maybe it was like the 90s or the late 90s, when like wallpaper kind of like went out a little
You're
bit.
right, yeah.
Because I remember like growing up as a kid, my grandparents' house had wallpaper in every room, like every room in the house, and then my parents' house didn't. There was no wallpaper anywhere.
Right.
But now I'm seeing it again everywhere.
Yeah, because if you recall, there was that time in design where everything was like gray and plain and white, and like it was almost like people were afraid to do anything.
Yeah.
And somewhere along the way, people came out of their box. I don't think wall covering ever actually went out of style per se, but definitely the trends have changed, and what you see in like more of pop culture has changed. Maybe the like high style was doing wall covering, whereas more day-to-day homes weren't doing it. But it's definitely taken a turnaround. I will say in Long Island, I sell a lot of performance products.
Okay. What does that mean, performance products?
Like they're more durable.
Okay.
So they're going to take the abuse a little bit more.
So you're saying we're aggressive on Long Island.
I think people have realized, especially with COVID and they were home more, they wanted their homes to be used more and not just a pretty place, but used for the kids and the families and take a little bit of abuse. So it seems that the performance products that we sell are really like my biggest seller. They're washable, they're durable.
Yeah, and that's a big thing now because, even if I say like going back to the 90s, for instance, and I know you said it never went out of trend, but, growing up, like you said, with being home with kids, and it's like I was never at home growing up. Never, you get home from school, you're outside, you're going here, you're going there, but now people work from home all the time. Even if it's not a full week at home, it's half a week at home.
That's right.
So they're just home all the time now.
Yeah.
So what you started talking about trends. So, High Point was a couple of weeks back. I don't know if were you there?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't go to High Point.
Okay, so then more specifically to Wallpaper, then what kind of trends are you seeing happening now, mid 2025 in Wallpaper, or not even Wallpaper, but any type of wall coverings?
Yeah, so I'm seeing more, like I mentioned before, printed designs. The printed designs that we do are versatile. So like if you can do it on grass cloth, you could print it on linen, you could print it on vinyl. Wow. So you have different options, different grounds that you can print it on, but a lot of printed patterns, large scale, medium scale, and small scale, a little more colorful, more fun. So definitely some whimsy.
Colors, textures, different colors of textures that are trending.
Specific colors and textures?
I mean, what's trending now?
Yeah, so the colors that I'm seeing, for summer, they're obviously going to be light and airy. We tend to do it a little bit by the season.
Oh, okay.
So, so not specific to, like, let's say the color of the year from Pantone or something like that. So in the fall, the colors will be a little more fall-like, a little more traditional and classic and things like that. Right now, we're putting out new collections, and they're really beachy vibes, some pastel colors.
Is that because summer's here, or is
Yes.
that? Okay.
Yes, so we tend to go a little bit with the seasons.
And that's interesting because I would think, but like I said, I lack a bit of knowledge about design, that you would want to choose wall covering based on maybe the location or the type of house, but not the seasonal aspect, because the wall covering is going to be there,
True.
365 days a year.
Yeah, but that's why we come out with 4 launches, not
Okay.
4 new collections, but 4 collections that have 14 new collections in them. So 4 times a year. So 4 times a year, we're putting out at least 14 new products. So that's a lot.
Yeah, wow.
So we're always putting out new things. So we're always changing it up. We very rarely are discontinuing products. So everything that we've sold, that we launched 2 years ago, we're still selling. Yeah.
Cool. Now let's talk a little bit about where we're sitting here as I look around in the showroom. If a designer comes into the showroom, first of all, let's talk about the advantages of coming into, is this your only New York showroom?
This is our only New York showroom.
Okay.
Yes.
So what, especially if we're catering this episode or the podcast to a lot of designers on Long Island, it's a little bit of a trip, not crazy, but it's a train ride.
Yes.
What's the advantages to coming into the showroom versus potentially just, giving you a call and this is not necessarily specifically to you.
Right.
And I could even talk more generalized.
Yeah, generically.
Showroom versus.
Generically, I encourage designers in Long Island to meet with their sales reps in Long Island and have their sales reps come to them. If they happen to have a day where they're shopping, the D&D building has so many different products in this building. You can shop for fabrics, you can shop for wall covering, furniture, lighting, whatever you need for your project. It's really a one-stop shop. So the building is great. So if you're here in the building, maybe you're with your client, definitely come to Phillip Jeffries, because you'll be able to see bigger samples here than I would
Bigger
have.
or more? Do you have samples of everything?
I have. So when I see a designer, I bring with me the current collection that's brand new and 1 season past, but in my car, I have everything.
Everything, wow.
So I bring everything. I just don't have necessarily big samples.
Okay. Are samples digital yet, or is that not a thing because you want to feel the material?
You do want to feel the material. Our website is amazing. So I encourage all designers to take a look at our website. All of our products are on the website, so everything is already digitized. But yes, you have to touch and feel it. Especially with our papers, it's all about the texture. Yeah. So it's not just a smooth paper, it's grass cloth and it's linens and boucle, and they all have a lovely hand or a textural hand.
Yeah.
They're all unique in that way. So yeah, you definitely need to touch and feel it versus seeing it on the website. But the website is really good.
Okay.
And we sample really well. Our samples come in a day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can place a sample order now. Let's say right now it's $442, and you'll have it sometime tomorrow when your UPS driver comes.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Well, I'm going to personally invite people to come into the showroom here because it is beautiful. And
is
even
a
if
showroom.
you want to just come in for inspiration, whatever you feel like. But like you said, you're trade only, but nevertheless, if you want to come into the showroom just for inspiration, it's for anything else, just come in and check it out. Because
yes, it is for designers only, yes.
There's just walls of stuff. Let's talk about designers. If a designer wants to start incorporating some wall coverings, what is that process like? When should they first reach out to you? I mean, what is the process for someone who's never worked with a wall covering company before?
I feel like the first step for a designer interested in wall covering would be to take a look at inspiration from magazines or Instagram. A lot of designers take inspiration from Instagram. And then, of course, websites from vendors, too. So we show a lot of installation images, so you're not just looking at the product, you're looking at it used in a space.
Yeah.
I post every day. So
Okay.
if a designer is following me on Instagram, I shouldn't say I post every day. I try to post every
Yes.
day.
We're all guilty of that.
Sometimes it's like 2 times a week, but I'm always trying to post new
Yeah.
things on Instagram. Or even if a designer has posted something and they've used Phillip Jeffries in it,
You'll share
I
it.
will reach out and ask if I may repost it. And so
Yeah.
now I'm reposting another designer's installation, and then that'll be inspiration for another designer.
Yeah.
So I feel like the first step would be gaining inspiration from images that have been used. Then the next step would be to meet with your sales rep and find out more about it.
At what point in the process does it happen?
It can happen right from the beginning, or I think the whole room should be based around the wall covering, but
Okay.
not every designer is going to do it.
Yeah.
Like, I guess it depends on the room. Like if you are working on a room and you want to have pattern on your wall, I would start with the wall covering. But if you want your walls to be a little more of a backdrop for art, let's just say, then maybe you're going to work around your rug or your
your
furniture,
whatever, yeah.
and then you could come to the wall covering later. So it depends on the room and the project and the designer's vision. And again, that ties back to the inspiration, where they're getting their vision.
Yeah.
They have to be inspired by something.
That makes sense. Have you noticed any out of the box creative ways that designers are using wall coverings?
Yeah, so wall covering isn't just for the walls. A couple of creative ways that wall covering can be used is on the fifth wall. Do you know what the fifth wall is?
No.
The fifth wall is the ceiling.
Ceiling,
Yeah,
okay.
so that's a really creative way to use wall covering. And another way is with furniture. So some of our wall coverings can be wrapped around cabinetry, and that looks really great, really changes the look. Or it can be done in the inset back of, say, a bookcase.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I've seen headboards
Yeah,
covered
absolutely.
in wallpaper.
You can wrap, or you could we actually have an acoustic line of wall covering, so
Okay.
that could be your headboard in lieu of a headboard.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What does that mean, acoustic line?
So it has acoustic qualities.
Okay.
It reduces the noise in the space by about 30%.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
not completely soundproof or anything, but definitely helps. And it's foam, and then it has a design in the foam. So it's like 3-dimensional.
Oh, nice.
So it almost looks like it's upholstered on the wall.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, and I see it here. I mean, I'm assuming this is your
That's actually
wallpaper
wood veneer up on the
Okay.
ceiling. But yeah.
that nobody can see.
No, that nobody could see. I could show you one of the acoustic ones later.
Okay. Now, what about customization? Is that even a thing?
Of course it is.
Okay. I don't know anything about
customization. We have a
pardon
line.
my ignorance.
That's okay. We have a line at Phillip Jeffries. We say, "Tell me about your project."
Okay.
So customization is going to be based on what you need your project to be. So let's just say, very simply, you're looking at one of our prints, and we offer it in 9 different colors, but you're not finding the color that you need,
Mm-hmm.
and you want to go custom, and your budget allows for it. You can do that. So there is like a minimum for doing a custom. We can change color based on your needs. If it's one of our mural designs and maybe it has an element in it, like I'm just throwing one out there, like our flight has these crane birds.
Okay.
And maybe you love the birds, but you don't love the scale of them. Maybe you want to scale them down a little bit. They're
Okay.
really bold and quite beautiful. So if you wanted to scale down those birds, that's something also that you can do custom with that minimum order. So that's custom with our digital prints. Then we have a line.
So your mural prints, sorry for interrupting.
That's okay.
You're essentially looking at mural digital images, and then you can kind of compose what part you want on the wall based on the wall size and all that. Is that how that works?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah. So our murals have a set pattern repeat, and they're sold that way. So, and then you can change the grounds without going custom.
Okay.
That's something we call mashup. So you're just mashing it up.
All right. Interesting.
But custom would be taking it to the next level, where you're changing scale, you're changing elements, you're changing colors. So that's one way of customizing. And then another customization that you could do is we have another product that's called Glacier. It's
Okay.
where there's like, I think maybe 5 different ground options. So like there's a grass cloth, there's a raffia, a few different colors. There's like a painted raffia, and then there's an ombre of paint color that comes down from the top. So that paint color, you can actually choose your paint color. We offer it
Interesting.
in I don't remember, maybe like 7 or 8 different color options. But if you wanted, you can actually choose that color from any Benjamin Moore or Sherwin-Williams or whatever. So that's another customization that you can do. Yeah, and then another customization you could do is, let's say it's for a really large commercial project, and maybe you want to go with one of our performance products, but you need to make a change with the color or the texture or something like that. That would require, because that's not digitally printed, so it's a different type of thing. So that would require a minimum yardage, and then we can customize that too.
What about, I don't know why I just thought of this, what about literally customizing digital art onto wall coverings? So like if I have an image that I shot and I was like, you know what, I want this huge on my wall.
Perfect.
Can I send you a picture?
Yep, so same, that would require that minimum order.
Okay.
It's a minimum dollar amount that we talked about before, the digital print, and easy. We would just take your image and turn it into digital art.
No, that's great, because I feel like that is a big draw for designers, where they can literally have graphic designers design custom art for people's homes based on things they like, based on who they are, just literally create a custom piece of art.
Absolutely.
And then you can get it printed.
They don't even have to have their own graphic designer. If they do, great. Otherwise, they can come to us with their vision, and we have a design team, and then we can create it for you.
Because that's, talk about customization. I feel like that's like the ultimate. You go to a kid's playroom and the kids have their names on the wall and this and that. No, it's just based on the likes of the family.
Yes.
It's like.
But the beauty of it would be to be putting it on our beautiful Phillip Jeffries textured backgrounds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what's the timeline for stuff like that?
So for a custom project that's printed digitally, it depends on how involved the design is and how long it would take the design team to create it, and how many passes until it's approved. So let's say they submit, but it doesn't get approved, then it has to go through another process. So it could be as little as 6 weeks, or as long as like 12 to 14 weeks.
Okay, and is that the same for just regular,
so
I don't know if stock is
standard,
the right word?
Standard. So our standard digitally printed designs, 1 to 2 weeks.
Oh, so it's pretty
quick. Amazing.
Pretty quick.
But even, and they're printed in our facility in Fairfield, New Jersey.
Oh, so if you're on Long Island, it's pretty quick.
Yeah.
Even quicker. But even like you said, the max 12 to 14 weeks is not insane for a custom design that you're having a graphic designer design for you.
Right.
Going back and forth, approval, back and forth, printed, everything like that. It's not so bad.
Yeah. And it's unique, one of a kind.
It is. That's why I like that. That's why, I don't know, maybe I'll do something from my kid's basement one day. I'll get a custom design, or in my office, I'll take one of my prints and blow it up big.
I love it.
Let's talk about installation. And I know you're not really on that side of things in general, but what should designers know in terms of prep, application, common issues that should be avoided? At what point in the process should they put the wallpaper up? All that stuff.
Those are great questions. So what they should do, which is really one of the best practices that they should do, is when they are having an installer come to the home to measure, to give them an estimate and how much yardage they need, they should have the sample of the product that they're interested in using in the space, and talk to the installer about the installation, so that will set expectations. We also offer on our website, every single product has hanging instructions. Okay. And I encourage designers to read those hanging instructions. It's not just for the installer, and there's also maintenance tips on there. Yeah. But it does also set expectations. It'll show a picture of how it will seam. It will tell you, we actually have 3 levels of seaming. Okay. So level 1 would be virtually seamless, and we have a line of products that are virtually seamless. So depending on how good that installer is, they will get hung, and you can't tell what the seam is. Well, then we have a level 2, which is subtle seaming. So just as it sounds, you may or may not see the seam. It'll be kind of subtle. And then we have a line, mostly grass cloths will fall into this category, where it panels beautifully, which means you will see each panel or strip.
And that'll hide the seam.
No, you will see the seams.
Oh, you will see the seam.
You will see each strip. So that means you will see the seams,
okay.
yes.
But I guess that's a design feature.
Yes, it adds visual interest to the wall. But those are the kinds of things that designers should look for when they're looking at product. They should look at the level, will this seam? Because that's one of the things that usually designers will miss. And or their homeowners, their clients will miss.
Yeah.
So they should be talking about it right up front. Set the expectation to their client so that they can know. That's like one of the most important things. But I think it's very important to know how something is going to install before you do it.
Yeah.
Ask for images, or you could search our website for images, or you could even search.
Yeah, I've been on your website. You have even, besides the actual swatch itself, you have images of those designs in spaces.
Exactly, yes.
So
we try as sales reps on Instagram to tag something. So like, for example, a designer posted a beautiful product of a beautiful installation of one of our products called Arrowroot Inlay. So I was reposting it and I write hashtag PJ Arrowroot Inlay. So then when I want to see if there's other images, maybe a designer came to me and say, hey, do you have any installation images of Arrowroot Inlay? I can search that hashtag and it'll come up.
I'm hearing rumors that hashtags are going to be a thing of the past pretty soon.
But that's crazy. I don't know how then you would categorize anything.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess they were, I don't know, we went off topic here, but I guess they were originally designed for you to help find other people and other things, and it kind of, I don't know.
Interesting.
That's what the CEO of Instagram said.
So I think if you just use those words in your caption without the hashtag, you should be able to search those words.
I would imagine so.
I don't know.
That's interesting. And at what point in the process should that installation happen? I mean, before floor goes down, but after floor goes down, obviously before furniture comes in.
Yeah, but it should be like one of the last things. So definitely after flooring goes down, after you've painted, molding, and the walls need to be primed and prepped for the wall covering. So it's really one of the last things before the furniture goes in, before the drapery treatments would go in, because you'll probably want to install over the wall covering so the installer doesn't have to cut around the drapery hardware. But yeah, so it's kind of one of the last.
You don't offer installation, right?
We do not do installations,
Okay.
no. There's a lot of great installers in Long Island. They come to me based on designer recommendations. So we don't necessarily recommend installers.
Okay.
And when a designer comes to me and asks me for an installer, I tell them, this is a designer recommended installer, because I'm not, you know what I mean? Like I'm not out there installing all the time.
Exactly.
So another really great tool that Phillip Jeffries offers for designers learning about installation, we have a blog on our website.
Okay.
And it's called Behind the Design. And then within that blog is another blog called The Hang. And it's videos with a wall covering installer, and some of the videos have Phillip. And they talk about, they actually demonstrate installing certain different wall coverings, and those are great videos. And it's really great to learn. You take away a lot of information.
I mean, even
from
if
them.
you're not installing, I think to have that background knowledge goes a long way. Just a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
All right, let's shift gears a little bit because we're getting low on time, and let's talk a little bit about sustainability, and let's talk about your products in general and what Phillip Jeffries in general is doing to address people that are eco-conscious and stuff like that.
Sure. So one thing I'm really proud that Phillip Jeffries does, which I bet you didn't know about, we plant a tree with every order.
No, I did not.
We are up to 420-something thousand trees planted.
Okay.
We do it through the Arbor Day Foundation, and so together, Phillip Jeffries and the people at the Arbor Day Foundation decide where the plantings are going to happen.
Okay.
I forget where the current one is, but I'm pretty sure it's in like Florida, where there was some devastation. So pardon me for forgetting. But yeah, I think that's a really nice thing that Phillip Jeffries does. We also, in addition to that, I mentioned our performance products. So when I say performance, I'm really generally speaking about vinyls. Okay. But we came out with a new line of PVC-free performance products. So they do not contain vinyl. They have no formaldehyde, no chemicals, zero VOCs. our vinyl products are low VOCs to begin with, but sometimes you need even less.
Yeah.
That'll be great towards like buildings that require that for LEED certification, but also residentially homes where the family is concerned about allergies or, just in general. So the designs are really nice. They have great texture. I don't know that they would replace the performance vinyls, but they're a nice option to have.
Yeah. Cool. Let's close off and talk about, I guess, the future or looking ahead. What's next for, I guess, Phillip Jeffries? What's next for some collections you might have coming out? This is releasing midsummer, so I don't know if you know or what's coming out for fall time. Any collaborations? We spoke about that briefly. Anything coming up? Design directions for Phillip Jeffries?
Yeah, so I'm happy to talk about that. With regard to design collaboration, I believe there is something that we're going to be doing as a designer collaborative. I don't know a lot about it right now.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned for that. But I collaborate with designers
Follow
all
you
the
on
time.
Instagram.
Yeah, we'll learn more.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll learn more soon. I collaborate with designers all the time because I'm helping designers to find the right product. But as far as what's coming ahead, I know our fall collections, it's going to be called Heritage.
Okay.
So it's going to be a little more classic, a little more traditional, probably more fall-like colors like I was mentioning. And so I'm sure that there will be, we usually have a new mural, so I'm sure there will be a new mural. We just did a bunch of new prints, so I don't know that there will be prints, but I feel like maybe. My guess is there's probably going to be some textile wall covering coming out in the fall. I feel like that's usually something we'll do in the fall. But I don't know what they look like yet. So.
Yeah. And how soon prior to, like, when do the collections launch, essentially?
That launches at the end of August.
Is the fall?
Yes.
Okay. And then I'm assuming then the end of spring is for summer. So by the time this airs, summer will already be out.
Summer is out today.
Oh, summer's out today.
Today,
okay, so summer is out already.
Yes. And they're beautiful.
Okay, cool. So I want to thank you, Melissa, for coming on. We're just about low on time
And
here.
I want to thank you, Brian, for having me.
No problem. And thank Phillip Jeffries for giving us their showroom for the afternoon. In case people want, I'll let you give a plug for a bunch of things. If people want to come to the showroom, where is it located? If people want to follow both you and Phillip Jeffries on socials, how do they do that? And if people want to get in touch with you, obviously, like I said, they can get in touch with you through socials, but any other way, email or whatever.
Yeah. So the New York showroom is at the D&D building at 979 3rd Avenue, which is between 58th Street and 59th Street. I'm sure you designers are familiar with the building. I'm sure you've shopped here many times. But if you haven't, you better get in here. And then Phillip Jeffries' Instagram is Phillip Jeffries LTD. And then my Instagram is Melissa . And that's 1 L, 2 S's. Pollack, POLLACK .PJ. So melissa.pollack.pj.
I'm going to put those in the show notes anyway, so if people want to click on links, they can get there easier.
So then you can include my email address in the show notes,
Sure,
too.
I'll do it all there. There we go. And anybody, I think, anyway, in IDS that's involved knows how to get in touch with you. You're pretty out there all over the place at all the meetings. All right, cool. So thank you. This was a pleasure.
Yeah, it really was.
Fun. I don't know anything. I don't know anything about wall coverings. So
now you know. Now you know everything.
Yes. Now I can go home and tell my wife that we have to get custom pictures for our wall coverings, and she's going to shoot me. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.